Finally today, you might have heard about that blue whale spotted recently off the coast of California. It was tangled in fishing line. The 80-foot whale disappeared without a trace after it was filmed in the waters near Los Angeles. But it brought back into focus a big problem in the world's oceans: lost and abandoned fishing gear. It's a small slice of the hundreds of millions of tons of plastic trash swirling in the world's oceans. But these so-called ghost fishing lines and nets can have an outsized and disastrous impact on sea life. Getting rid of them has been a huge challenge, but there are efforts afoot around the globe. One such program in the Philippines tries to attack the problem by turning it into an economic opportunity. Here's reporter Aurora Almendral.
Just off the coast of tiny Guindacpan Island in the central Philippines, a half dozen men are diving to the sea floor 20 feet below. They pop up every few minutes, but not with their usual catch. They're bringing up abandoned fishing nets, dripping in mud and tangled with broken corals and dying crabs. Like most of the men on Guindacpan, Julius Sabal is a fisherman. The nets that get thrown in the sea, he says, it turns out they have a severe effect on the ocean. We sea people didn't know before what these nets did. What they know now is that these ghost nets, as they're called, are killing some of what would be their catch. It's competition the fishermen here can't afford. And it's not the only problem the nets are causing. The fish are also disappearing because the nets are killing the coral reef, Sabal says. Because it turns out the coral reefs can't breathe when this is piled on top of them. The men learned all of this from the Zoological Society of London, a conservation group active in the Philippines. But their new understanding hasn't made them decide to just pull up the nets in their free time. They're getting paid for the old nets by the kilo.
That's the most important element in networks.
That's Amado Blanco, who runs the Philippine branch of Networks. It's a collaborative effort between the Zoological Society and some for-profit partners to get ghost nets out of the water. Blanco says most people understand why conservation is important, but he says people's enthusiasm for volunteer conservation projects often loses out to the more pressing needs of daily life, like feeding their families.
So what can motivate people to support models like Network in the long term is that they can clean the environment and earn at the same time.
And the money they earn from networks ultimately comes from the nets themselves. The old nylon nets collected on Guindacpan are baled up and shipped off to become part of the global plastic supply chain. First to a recycling facility in Slovenia, then to factories in the US and Italy, where they're turned into carpeting. Blanco says the program works not because it makes people feel good to recover the nets or buy the carpet, or because some foundation supports it, but because it feeds into a market that already exists.
So we don't have to be dependent perpetually on funding from abroad or locally.
It's a kind of conservation capitalism. The program has already been successful enough that it is expanding across the Philippines into nearby Thailand and Indonesia, and even a lake in Cameroon in Central Africa. And the company at the end of the pipeline hopes it's all just a start. Plastic trash in the oceans is a global problem, way bigger than fishing nets alone. And Nigel Stansfield, a vice president of the Georgia-based carpet maker Interface, believes that the networks model can help solve it.
In my dreams, I see us mining the plastic soup in the North Pacific and the Atlantic with a group of like-minded organizations and industries and recycle that soup back into a variety of different sources.
Stansfield says it'll take time to work out a business model that would work on such a large scale. And even here in the Philippines, the problem is much bigger than just old fishing nets. The ocean here is full of plastic. Shopping bags, water bottles, raincoats, children's toys, toothbrushes, cell phone cases, potato chip packets. But for now, the ghost nets hit the sweet spot for this new approach. They're a bad problem. Many are relatively easy to recover, and they can be recycled into marketable products. The people who buy and use the carpets the nets get turned into may never know they're helping restore a working ecosystem halfway around the world. But the impact here is tangible for fishermen like Julius Sabal. The money helps us buy school supplies, pencils, pens. This helps out for our kids, he says. But it's also more than just the extra cash. We're taking the nets back from under the sea so that we can bring the fish back that used to be here, Sabal says. Because if we continue to neglect it, the oceans will be even worse for our children. For The World, I'm Aurora Almendral, Guindacpan Island, Philippines.
That's it from us today. From the Nan and Bill Harris studios at WGBH in Boston, I'm Carol Hills. We're back with you tomorrow.